known when I stepped out my front door, and in the next 2 hours, I would stop an attempted murder and then be faced with the opportunity to tell my mother what was happening at my grandparents' house when my grandfather had me alone, I might have turned back around. My 12th year was a rough one. I had a militant stepfather. I was dealing with humiliating bullying at school. And my mother's father decided that his sexual needs were more important than my childhood innocence. But I had one thing that helped me through all of this. It was horses. And oddly enough, it was my grandfather who first introduced me to that love. I lived in a town that had a historic racetrack, and I lived right behind it, and I was there all the time. I loved it. And I happened to be fortunate enough that there was a man there who was a trainer who liked to drink more than he liked to do his job. And he saw in me the perfect opportunity to have someone do his job, and I was very happy to do it. I loved being there. Now, I'm of a generation that when I was 12, I walked to school 2 miles. And I usually walked with my neighbor Gina, who was a couple of years older than me. And we also walked with a boy from down the street who was a year older than she and lived at a home for delinquent boys. His name was Moose. He was a big guy, but he was kind of shy, and I was never afraid of him. On my best mornings, I would get ready early so that I could walk through the track and go visit my horse on my way to school. One particular day in the fall, I was doing that and heard a noise coming from the stalls that were in the back of the track that were only used in the summertime, so there was never anybody there. And then I quickly realized that this noise was someone being harmed. I heard someone saying, "Stop, you're hurting me!" And I started to walk towards the other side of the track to try to see if I could find someone to help. And as I'm starting to walk, I see that someone's coming out of that stall and coming at me. So I start running as fast as I can. And then I see that he turns around to get whoever he had back in the stall. So I get across and I find a couple of men there and say, "Someone's being hurt, you have to go help them." So they grab some weapons, they get in their truck, and they drive over there. Now, the smart thing for me to do would probably be to go home, where I would be safe, but I didn't because I was 12. So I went across to see what was going on because I was curious. And I saw that the man who had been causing this harm took off, and one of the guys took after him. And as I got closer, I saw the person that he had been hurting come out. And as I got even closer, I realized it was my neighbor. It was Gina. And she had an injury to her head. There was blood coming all down her. And the other man quickly put her in the truck, and we drove her to the hospital. And the medical people quickly took her and took care of her, and then I'm there by myself. I don't remember what happened to that man, but somebody gave me a quarter so I could use the payphone to call my mom, who, when I told her what happened in my frantic state, thought that I was the one who had been attacked. So she was grateful when she got there and saw that it wasn't me. The next thing I remember is being in the car with my mother, and her trying to calm me down, me trying to figure out what to do because I was so sure that Moose was going to come find me and he was going to hurt me because I had stopped him. So she suggests, "I'll take you to your grandparents' house. He doesn't know where they live." And I say, "No, I can't go there because he'll," and she said, he'll what? Who? And I couldn't finish. I couldn't say it. I couldn't tell her. But what I realized in that moment was that going to my grandfather was where I needed to be, because even though what he was doing to me was so wrong, he was the one person who would protect me. He wouldn't let anybody hurt me. So that was where I went. I've spent so much of my adult life, certainly in therapy, but also trying to understand what happened to me. But what I've come to realize is that if I had finished that sentence, if I had gone back in my house, it's very likely that the whole trajectory of my life would have been different. I have 3 amazing sons, and I survived what happened to me, and I thrived, and my boys are my proof. Thank you.